Hello, parents. Welcome back. And thank you for some of your responses on the last couple of videos, especially the one on air and spare. Isn't it amazing how sometimes we do these things, but we really don't realize that that we're actually doing anything, or that it has an effect, a negative effect on our children. And I know, I'm a coach and I work with children and families. However, these videos is not meant to really coach you. I mean, I do that on the side, but what I'm hoping to do with this video or these videos is to connect with you as a parent and to free you as a parent to join with you as parents, to share my experiences and the experiences that I have working with children over the last 19 years or so that I can sort of give you a background knowledge of what is going on. That you probably would not see in your child, or you will not see them talk about or hear them talk about, but some of them have shared with me over the last few number of years that I've worked with children. And so the intent of these videos is to empower parents. First, to remove the guilt, because parenting is the toughest job in the entire world, isn't it? But I think what makes it tougher is the fact that we just sort of assume that we just would know it. We just would know what to do. Nobody trains us apart from maybe what our parents hand over to us, which oftentimes, may have worked for some generation, but may not be relevant in other generations, in subsequent generations. So it really is a tough job. And I do have a prayer mentoring group for moms. You probably see some of those videos also on this channel. But that's a totally different thing, where we come together as mothers. And this channel is to, reach out to the larger community, especially of Christian mothers, Christian fathers, to sort of show us what we may be doing wrong, that we're not conscious of, and that are affecting our children, and why some of you are, having me work with your children. And some may never have me work with their children because, maybe for financial reasons. But I'm hoping that these videos can help you, whether or not I work with your family. All right. So in the last few videos, 3 videos, I talked about sibling rivalry. I talked about how it's impacted my own family, how my dad, maybe partly my mom as well, sort of created this rivalry between or amongst us, 7 of us, to the point that when my dad died, all of that had created some sort of enmity between us, especially between the 2 brothers, and whereas one saw himself as the heir, if you remember my last video was talking about the heir and the spare, and the other refused to be the spare. All right. And so the other one was to usurp what some family members consider usurping the role of the heir. So there's a tussle between the 2 of them over what our dad left behind. And up till now, almost 3 years after he's died, we have no resolution. We have no resolution. 2 brothers will not speak to each other. So, but let me stop at that. If you do have questions, or you do have comments on how this is impacting your family or may impact your family, please share. But the intent of this is to help us younger parents. And I say younger because we're still alive. So it doesn't matter if you're 70 or 80. If you're still alive, you can still make some corrections. Now, you can still bring 2 divided factions or 2 feuding factions of your family together while you're still alive. That's what I mean by younger ones. But obviously, those that are much younger in age, below the age of 40 or 50, you have a long time. You have a lot of time to correct these impressions between your children now while they're small, okay? But here is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the concept of firstborn, lastborn, and the middle child. And the middle child, I'm going to refer to as the forgotten. And I'll tell you why when I get there. I did some podcasts about this some time ago, but I'm refreshing what I shared in that podcast here. So usually the firstborn, I think that's all I'm going to have time for today. The firstborn, I'll come back and talk about the lastborn and then the middle child or the middle children, which I've referred to, I've termed the middle children, the forgotten. But let's talk first about the first child. Now, the first child syndrome it's the life of a first child is the life of expectation and the life of pressure. So usually the firstborn gets all the attention, right? And there's usually pressure on them to perform. I'm going to say that again. And I want you to take that back to see where you might have created that impression. The firstborn want to perform because we built into their psyche, knowingly or unknowingly, that they are the first and the others that follow them are watching. So they must set a good example. They must set the highest standard, or they must have a high standard. And you tend to often find out that whatever the firstborn is doing, the others want to copy. And that's usually where the competition starts sometimes. The fact that there's a firstborn and the others, the firstborn sees it as pressure on their lives. Why can't they just live their own life for themselves? Why do they have to be an example for their siblings? And I'm not saying it's wrong for us to build leadership in them. Here's what I'm saying. The first one is the natural leader. That's taken because they're first. But it doesn't necessarily make them the leader of the pack. And so what I'm saying here is do not create in your children the herd mentality. Because here's what would happen. If the firstborn was raised as the leader of the pack, and the rest of them, 2, 3, maybe 4 after them, are the herd, then what would happen is what you're doing in the rest of the others is you're raising them as herd. And you know what happens with the herd? They just follow and they don't know how to lead. They expect to be led all the time. They expect to be told what to do all the time. Now, while that is unhealthy for them, it's also unhealthy for the firstborn to have to shoulder the responsibility of their siblings. So here's what I'm saying, and I know this is to the extreme, but it happens in families. It happened in my family where my dad raised the firstborn like a surrogate mother to us. So I'm going to stop here because I don't want these videos to be very long. The first one in my family was raised as a surrogate mother. So my dad always asked us to refer to her, to go to her for stuff as if she was our mother. And I'm going to tell you in my next video what that did to us, the siblings, and what that did to her as a firstborn. But as a close, here's what I want to leave you with. Every child, my concept of leadership, and for some of you that's followed me for a number of years, you know that I help children develop servant leadership and self-leadership, self-awareness. And every child, in my view, is a leader. And every child ought to be raised as a leader. The responsibility is on us, the parents, to fashion out or to help them discover in what area are they leading, either within the family or within their, other groups, their friends. What are the attributes, the leadership attributes they have been naturally imbued with? Because God has imbued us with natural. We can develop more. We can help them develop more, which is what I do as a leadership coach. But I believe every child has been imbued by the Holy Spirit, right, from birth, with natural leadership abilities. That will show up in how they play. It will show up in how they speak. It will show up in their silence. We just need, as parents, to be very observant and to watch out for how they have been wired to lead. All right, so that's talking about the firstborn. I want to come back and talk about the lastborn, yeah? And then I'm going to talk about the middle child or the middle children, the forgotten children. All right, stay tuned and join me next time. Thanks for watching today. This is Coach Lara. God bless you. Bye now.